Kelvin was only 10 years old when his life took a turn that nobody in his neighborhood could have imagined. He was small in size, with sharp eyes that carried a mixture of innocence and curiosity. He lived with his widowed mother, Mama Grace, in a Face Me I Face You compound in Ajagunle, Lagos. The compound was noisy, full of life, and also full of secrets. Every evening, while other children chased tires and played football in the dust, Kelvin often sat quietly at a corner, watching. Welcome to Stories by Ricardo. Here, we don't just tell stories. We bring real emotions to life. Each tale you hear is packed with lessons, heartbreak, redemption, and unforgettable moments. So relax, open your heart, and let today's story take you on a journey you'll never forget. He was watching not the children, but the young men who lived in the next room, boys in their late teens who always had loud music playing, flashy phones in their hands, and money to spend as if it grew on trees. They dressed in shiny shirts, wore thick chains, and sometimes brought in women who laughed too loudly. Kelvin couldn't stop staring. They didn't work in offices. They didn't hawk on the streets. They didn't have shops. Yet, every weekend, their table was filled with bottles of beer, plates of fried meat, and the smell of imported perfumes. Kelvin's mother tried her best to raise him properly. She sold vegetables in Boundary Market, often returning home tired, her wrapper soaked with sweat. She wanted her son to focus on school, but the sight of the flashy boys next door planted a dangerous seed in Kelvin's heart. One night, Kelvin overheard them talking. "Guy, I swear this mugga don't pay," one of them bragged, his voice full of pride. "Dollar just enter my account." "Which mugga be that?" another asked. "One old woman way day America. I tell her say I love her. She believe me, send money." They all laughed. Kelvin lay on his thin mattress, his small heart pounding. He didn't understand everything they said, but he understood the important part. Money came from the computer, and it came fast. He turned on his side and whispered to himself, "If they can do it, I can do it too." The next afternoon, instead of rushing to play football, Kelvin wandered to the back of the compound where the boys often gathered. One of them, a tall, dark-skinned boy called Tunde, was typing furiously on his laptop. Kelvin peeped through the window, his eyes wide. "What are you looking at, small boy?" Tunde barked. Kelvin froze. Nothing, bros." But Tunde didn't chase him away. Instead, he smirked. "Come here." Kelvin shuffled closer. The screen showed a long chat with a white woman. Kelvin read lines like, "I miss you, darling, and I will visit you soon." Tunde whispered, "This is Yahoo. This is how money comes. You tell them sweet things they believe, and then they send you dollars." Kelvin's heart thumped. He didn't fully understand love, but he understood money. He had watched his mother struggle too long. Maybe, just maybe, this was the answer. "Teach me," Kelvin blurted. Tunde burst into laughter. "Teach you? You dey craze? You still dey primary school." But another boy, Sly, leaned over. "Leave am. Small boy get sharp eyes. Who knows? He fit bring luck." They laughed, but that evening, Tunde allowed Kelvin to sit with him. He showed him how to create a fake Facebook account, how to copy pictures of white men in suits, and how to send messages pretending to be a rich businessman searching for love. Kelvin's small fingers tapped the keyboard with trembling excitement. At first, it was a game. Kelvin copied words Tunde gave him. He sent messages to strangers across the ocean. He even added emojis, thinking it made the lies more believable. He didn't expect anyone to reply. But one evening, when his mother was frying plantain outside, Kelvin sneaked into Tunde's room and saw a message blinking on the screen. It was from an old woman named Margaret in London. She had written, "You remind me of my late husband. You are so kind." Kelvin grinned. She replied. Tunde laughed. "Good. Now we catch him small. Days turned into weeks. Kelvin, barely 10 years old, found himself spinning stories about a fake life, about a man who needed money to travel, about love across oceans. He didn't understand the depth of what he was doing. He only felt the thrill of being part of something big. Then, one Saturday, Tunde shouted, "She sent money!" He turned the laptop to show Kelvin a receipt. Margaret had wired a few $100s. It was not millions, but it was something. Tunde threw Kelvin a crisp 1,000 naira note. "Here, small boy, your first cut." Kelvin held the note in his trembling hands. His heart soared. 1,000 naira. His mother worked for days to make that. From that day, Kelvin was no longer the same. He hid the money in his school bag and later bought biscuits, sweets, and even a pair of cheap sunglasses. His friends in school stared at him. "Kelvin, where you get money?" one asked. He shrugged. "I just get." But his mother noticed too. She saw him returning home with snacks she didn't buy. She confronted him one evening. "Kelvin, where do you get money from? Tell me the truth." Kelvin swallowed hard. He loved his mother, but he couldn't tell her. "Somebody dash me." Mama Grace sighed, too tired to argue. "Just don't steal, Kelvin. I don't want trouble." Kelvin nodded, but guilt bit him deep inside. Still, every time he looked at the boys with their laptops, their sneakers, and their endless cash, his guilt melted into desire. Weeks passed. Kelvin's skills grew sharper. He learned how to craft lies that sounded sweet, how to send emails that looked real. He could now pretend to be a businessman in America or a soldier in Iraq. He was only 10, but his fingers typed faster than most adults. One night, as he left Tunde's room, a tall man with gold chains stopped him at the gate. His eyes glowed with something dangerous. "You, this small boy," the man said, his voice deep. "I've been hearing about you. They say you have talent." Kelvin froze. I don't know what you mean." The man laughed, a laugh that made Kelvin's stomach twist. "Don't be afraid. My name is Bruno. I make big money, bigger than these compound boys. If you follow me, I will show you real Yahoo, Yahoo Plus." Kelvin's breath caught. He didn't know what Yahoo Plus meant, but the way the man's gold watch glistened in the dark, he felt an irresistible pull. Bruno leaned closer. "Think about it, small boy. You're wasting your gift here. With me, you'll touch real money." As the man walked away, Kelvin's small heart raced. He was only 10 years old, standing in the shadows of the compound, holding on to a dangerous secret. He didn't know it yet, but he had just taken the first step into a world that would change his life forever. And it all began with a single lie typed on a laptop. Kelvin was only 10 when he first touched fraud money, but by the time he turned 13, he was already known in the compound as Small Boss. He no longer begged his mother for transport fare or snacks. He always had money in his pockets, yet nobody really knew where it came from. The man he met that night, Bruno, kept coming around. He drove flashy cars, sometimes a Lexus, sometimes a Benz with tinted windows. He was feared by neighbors because stories followed him like shadows. Some said he had boys working for him. Others whispered he had gone to shrines for fortification. One evening, Bruno called Kelvin aside. "You can't waste your talent, small boy," he said, dangling car keys in his hand. "The world will eat you if you don't eat first. Yahoo Ordinary is for children. Yahoo Plus is for men. You want to become a man?" Kelvin hesitated. He thought of his mother's warnings, her tired face, her prayers each night. But he also thought of the boys around him, some still hawking on the streets while he already had taste of money. "I want," Kelvin whispered. Bruno smiled, showing gold teeth. "Good, then follow me." That night, Bruno took Kelvin to a house at the edge of Ajagunle. It was not like the noisy compound where he lived. This house was quiet, with red bulbs glowing faintly in the corridor. Inside, other boys sat with laptops, their faces lit by screens, their fingers moving like machines. Kelvin's eyes widened. This was bigger than Tunde's room. These boys spoke in codes, moving money from one account to another, laughing as alerts filled their phones. Bruno placed a hand on Kelvin's shoulder. "From today, you are my boy. You will learn real things. But know this, big money comes with big sacrifices. Kelvin swallowed hard. He didn't understand fully, but his young heart throbbed with excitement. He was climbing higher. It wasn't long before Kelvin saw what Bruno meant. One midnight, Bruno gathered the boys and said, "Tonight, we fortify. No Maga will escape us. No police will catch us. No enemy will succeed." They were taken to a small shrine deep inside a swampy area. The air was heavy with the smell of blood and incense. A man, half naked and painted in chalk, stood waiting. Kelvin trembled. He was still only 13. He wanted to run, but Bruno's hand gripped his shoulder tight. The ritual was terrifying. They slaughtered a white cock, poured its blood into a clay pot, and chanted strange words. The priest told them never to reveal what they had seen, never to eat certain foods, and never to betray the brotherhood. Kelvin's hands shook, but when they returned, Bruno handed him a brand new iPhone. "Now you are untouchable. Use this wisely." Kelvin forced a smile. Deep inside, something broke. He felt he had stepped into a place he could never return from. By the time Kelvin was 15, he was no longer a boy in torn slippers. He wore sneakers, gold chains, and clothes from boutiques. His mother, Mama Grace, was confused. She saw him coming home late, sometimes with gadgets she never bought, sometimes with bundles of cash. "Kelvin, where do you get all this?" she cried one night, holding his arm. "Tell me the truth." Kelvin looked into her tired eyes and lied again. "Mama, I just do small business with my friends." Mama Grace shook her head. She knelt down and prayed, "Lord, protect my son from evil." But Kelvin was already far gone. He now had friends who drove cars, even though they were barely older than him. They went to clubs in Lekki, sprayed money on musicians, and posted pictures online. Kelvin enjoyed the life. Girls his age chased him. Older girls even called him small boss. The taste of power was sweet. But with the sweet came the bitter. One of his closest friends, Sly, suddenly fell sick. His skin turned pale, his voice weak, and he kept muttering in his sleep. Within days, he died. Rumors spread in whispers. The shrine has collected its own. Kelvin couldn't sleep that night. He saw Sly's laughing face, then remembered his body in a coffin. Was this the price? Then the police started raiding. One night, they stormed a club where Kelvin and his gang were spending money. People screamed, bottles broke, and boys were dragged out like goats. Kelvin barely escaped by slipping through a back door. He ran into the night, his heart pounding. When he reached home, he hugged his mother tightly. For a moment, he wanted to confess everything, but he couldn't. The shame was too deep. At 17, Kelvin was already rich enough to rent his own apartment. He bought his mother a small fridge, then a new wrapper. She was happy but suspicious. "Kelvin," she said, "don't let me cry over you. Don't follow fast money." Kelvin forced a smile. "Mama, I'm fine," but deep down he knew he was trapped. Then one night Bruno called him. "We have a new job, big money, millions of Naira, but this one requires strong sacrifice. Are you ready?" Kelvin froze. His chest tightened. He thought of Sly, of the police raids, of his mother's prayers. Something inside him screamed, "No," but greed whispered, "Yes." He followed Bruno anyway. The ritual that night was darker than anything before. The priest demanded something shocking. Kelvin had to bring a part of his own blood. He sliced Kelvin's arm, letting it drip into a calabash. "Now you belong fully," the priest said. "The money will never stop, but neither will the shadow following you." Kelvin shivered. By 20, Kelvin was wealthy. He drove cars, traveled to Dubai, and wore designer clothes. People who once mocked his mother now respected her because of her rich son. But Kelvin was not at peace. He began to have nightmares. He saw blood in his sleep. He saw Sly calling his name. He woke up sweating, gasping for air. Then came the betrayal. Bruno, the man who had guided him, was arrested after a raid. Kelvin's name was mentioned. Police began to hunt him. Friends abandoned him. Some said he would not survive the year. One night, while driving home, His car suddenly swerved and crashed into a pole. Kelvin crawled out, blood dripping from his head. People gathered, whispering, "Another Yahoo boy Don Jam." As he lay in the hospital, barely conscious, he thought of his first day at 10 years old, sitting in Tunda's room, typing lies he didn't even understand. One small choice had led him here. Kelvin survived the crash, but he was never the same again. His wealth drained as fast as it had come. His mother's tears became his only comfort. The boys he once called friends were gone, some dead, some in prison, some hiding abroad. He sat one morning on the balcony of their small house, staring into the street where children still played football with old tires. He whispered to himself, "I started Yahoo at just 10. Now look at me." The lesson hit him hard. Quick money comes with a price, and the price is always too heavy to carry. Greed may open doors quickly, but it will close them with pain. No matter how sweet fast money looks, its end is always bitter. Thank you for watching Stories by Ricardo. If this story touched you, made you think, or left you speechless, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, always remember, every struggle has a story, and every story matters.